Hi, my name is Gene Showalter, and this is my TQA Intro to Colt starting Phase 3 video. TQA is a nonprofit designed to educate the inexperienced horse owner on what to expect when hiring somebody from the equine industry. In this video, I will be going over my TQA Phase 3 score sheet for the Intro to Colt starting. In this first video, I am reviewing my groundwork Phase 1 and Phase 2 foundation, and I'm doing so by going over my doubling. Doubling is essentially a stage 1, or as some people may know it as a 1-rein stop. I'm going to do this from the walk, the trot, and the lope to show I have control of my horse. There are some times here where my horse does a great stage 1 into his double, and there are some times when he doesn't. This is also a great time to work on leads, and he does do a good job of finding his leads the lope here as well. Overall, for this review, given that there were some rough doubles such as that, I'm going to score him a 0.5. Here, also in the review, I have Phase 3 on the fence. Phase 3 is a side pass, or the lateral motion of the front and hind feet together. You can see on this side, he really wants to lead with his shoulder, so I really work on getting his hind end to follow and step up. This is my loping outside drill. The goal of this is to get the horse to lope in a straight line. You can see here he's really mothered up to my trailer, but I'm going to set him back on my line, and for the most part he follows that line really well. For the loping away maneuver, I'm going to score him at a 1.5. Another thing that I do for all of my horses, I want them to be able to walk back to the barn, and he does a great job of staying in that walk. Next up, we have horizontal direction at the slow trot and the fast trot. Horizontal direction is identified by 8 key signs, but the 2 that I look for the most is that the inside hind is stepping under the navel and the outside hind stepping around, and that the nose is following the same path as the feet. Another thing that I'm working on here is vertical direction, or some people know it, collection. And this is a great time to work on it because it's a lot easier to teach a horse to collect while in a circle than on a straight line. And it's also easier to see for the rider. He does a great job, and here I'm going to step up into my extended trot. In the extended trot, I focus a little bit less on collection, although I still want to be able to pick him up into my hands if I need to. My big thing here is letting him stretch out his gait, as well as keeping him in a C around my leg. And here we're going to switch to the other circle for my extended trot. He does a great job of staying in his C, keeping his feet right and his head right, giving me that collection when I ask for it. Overall, I'm going to score him a 2 on his horizontal direction circles and a 1 on his vertical direction, because his vertical direction can use a little bit of improvement, but he is doing well for where he's at. Here I'm going to work on my stage 2 a little bit, making sure that it's with willing submission and that he's using his hindquarters to pull him in reverse motion, which he does a good job of. I'm also working on stage 2 from the walk and the trot, and he does a really good job of rating off my hands and seat, waiting for that stop. Here I have stage 4 on the fence. The key of using the fence is helping that horse get themselves onto their haunches, and that stage 4 really strong and sound. Stage 4 is stopping inside hind and pivoting around it, which you see there. And I think I'll score him a 1.5 for those stage 4s. Here's something that I've been working on with this horse, which is a spin. In a spin, you focus a lot less on what the horse is doing and a lot more on how they do it. So I'm not so much looking for a stage 4 here as I am for motion in a circle, which he does a good job of. That is not on the score sheet, however. Here we have tracking the dummy. I want him to be able to use the rope really well. So we feed it out, we're gonna ride up and coil up to it. We're gonna dally, we're gonna turn, and we're gonna drag it. And he does a really good job with all of this, keeping his mind in the middle and on my rope, and dragging that dummy at a steady pace for my heeler. Here you can see he's a little bit squirmish about facing up again, but he does do it. And then we're going to go ahead and side pass like you would if you were rolling a calf. He gets a little bit nervous here, but that's alright. I try and keep him facing forward, his attention on the calf, and he does a good job with that. Next, I'll be tracking the dummy. You can see here that his attention is strongly on the dummy. My header's going to drag. We're going to rate up to it. I want to make sure my horse is rating with the dummy before I throw my rope so they don't get a reward for doing something wrong. He does a really good job here. And he holds the rope really well. Then we're going to go ahead and side pass. And this side pass is a lot better than it was on my head side. He's not trying to turn and leave. He's staying face, and he's holding that rope about as tight as he can. He does a really good job of this. Now going over my score sheet, we have our self-preservation. I'm going to score him at a +1, which is on the low side, because there was a little bit of self-preservation that came out, but for the most part he was good. Our confidence, I'm going to put him at a +1 for confidence. Although he wasn't very confident with the dummy, he was confident everywhere else. For our sensitivity, I'm going to put him at a 1.5 on the responsive side, because he was being very responsive through all this. Admittedly a little too much in places, but he did good. For the energy, I'm going to put him at a +1.5 because he did a really good job listening and trying his best for me. In the willingness, which is willing to respond to a request, I'm going to put him at a +1 because he was willing throughout all of this to respond to me until we got to the dummy. Had he listened better in the dummy as well, I would have scored him higher here. But there are some places where his self-preservation still takes over. And lastly, our reaction to social separation. I'm going to put him in a +1 here because he didn't care too much about where his friends were, but there were some points in this where he did.